Welcome, welcome. So you were just recently acquired by Amazon. Did they implant? Where did they implant the tracking system?
Right in the back. No.
Right in the back. Do they have control over what you say and think?
No, I think if you can get acquired by Amazon, you're about as lucky as you get because they don't have the trackers. they kind of really do let you. You just keep going.
I imagine it was sort of like that movie with the pub at the end of the world where everybody was replaced by the robots. You remember that one? Simon Pegg and everything?
No,
we can just watch that if you want.
We're all humans.
All right, cool. All right, so you were here, we just talked about this. You were here 5 years ago.
Yep.
Not here specifically, in one of the dumps that we used to be in. And you were just launching then, and you were also on Shark Tank. Why don't you tell me the travails of being a startup founder 5 years ago and being on Shark Tank and dealing with all that stuff?
Yeah, 5 years ago, very much on the other side. I was on Shark Tank looking for money, trying to get an investment. Did not get one on the show, and now it's funny because everyone says to me like, "Well, you were so smart not to take that money," and I'm like, "No, I was driving back from there to my garage, almost in tears, broke." And I actually needed the money. I mean, we needed cash at that time. And even here at Disrupt, we were in the hardware. I think you actually gave us the table. When I was coming up, the person walking me up said, "How many times have you spoken at Disrupt?" They said, "Have you been to Disrupt before?" I said, "Yeah, I was here this year and this year. I was actually at the first TC40." And she said, "So you've spoken that many times?" No, I wasn't a speaker.
You were just
like working, trying to tell people about my little startup.
So, was the Shark Tank experience good for you? Is that sort of dramatization of the startup experience good for the ecosystem?
I think Shark Tank has been a great show for families. Mm-hmm. Families watch the show. People watch it with their kids. It shows that I think it's aspirational. It shows that people can do things. It obviously has to be entertaining because it is TV, so you need people to watch it. But I think it has been good overall for I would say startups in general. I think when you get into tech startups specifically, that can break stuff out. But just overall for entrepreneurialism and inventors and people, I think it's been a great show to showcase what people can do. For Ring, we were Doorbot at the time. It gave us awareness and credibility that we never would have had. That sort of jumped us up, and it was a great platform for us to sort of launch off of. And we really used it. We turned out to be so far the largest company ever to be on it. But it was a great experience.
That's an interesting point. So I want to get into the acquisition a little bit, but I also think it might be helpful for these folks who are trying to get awareness. What are some of the best ways that you've been able to do sort of a guerrilla scale up aside from the TV show? What are some of the tools that you guys used?
We were just like consummate hustlers. It's like looking back at those days. Definitely, you work the booth at TC. You go to CES. Especially for consumer electronics, and you just grind. You wear your shirt everywhere. You just you grind. You embarrass yourself. It's not a I'd say it's not. I think that level of a startup, that beginning, you can kind of almost have no shame. You have to just put yourself out there and get the stories out there, get the name out there, and focus on the business, but you have to hustle.
Okay, so wearing the shirt actually helps because all these guys are going to wear their shirts. You think that's?
I think it's like,
or is it psychological?
I always get asked what people that have a hardware company today will come up to me and say what worked, what was and they really want the one thing. They want me to tell them we did X, and then they can just go do X and be successful. And the truth is it's 5,000 things that you have to do to make a successful company. The first thing, though, is you have to have a reason to be a business, and a reason, at Amazon they call it thinking from the customer. They're starting from the customer and working backwards, so they always work backwards from the customer. We always call our customers neighbors, and so we always start at the neighbors, and it's always around a mission to reduce crime in neighborhoods. And I think as a company, you need to start with some core that says why am I hustling? Why am I trying to track you down at CES? And when I see you grapple onto your arm until you just say, fine, I'll write a freaking article. But you have to have that reason, because I think a lot of people actually don't have the reason, so they end up hustling and tracking you down. And when they actually really talk to you, you're like, okay, but there's nothing to do. So I think that's for me, there's 1,000 things you have to do, and wearing the shirt, yeah, I mean, it's all these little things. It creates a conversation on an airplane with someone who asks a question, and then that leads to something. I mean, my family's laughed at me. I mean, I literally would wear the Ring shirt, the T-shirt for I wore it almost nonstop for 7 years.
Well, okay, the same one.
Sometimes.
It's kind of gross.
So I definitely wore through a few of them.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I get people stop me all the time, and they ask me to write a story about them, and I say my email is john@techcrunch.com. You guys can use that, but I only get out of the 100 people who ask me, I get 2 responses, 2 actual emails, which is fascinating. I don't understand what their shtick is. Why did you sell to Amazon? Is that Nirvana going to a major label? Aren't you guys don't want to be indie?
Again, you hear all this stuff of this. Did you sell out? The company was started with a mission to reduce crime in neighborhoods. That was always, if you ask any person who worked at Ring, any of my team members, anyone I've talked to, that from day one, that's been our mission is we're going to reduce crime in neighborhoods by delivering effective and affordable products and services. When Amazon, we had been working with Amazon on some Alexa integrations and other things, and when Amazon came to us, they had bought into the idea that the mission to reduce crime in neighborhoods made sense for Amazon on a strategic level. And for Ring, that became the best possible outcome to, the fastest, most scalable, with the best foundation. I mean, Amazon is an incredible vehicle for us to be able to utilize to accelerate our business. And so, for me, I certainly wasn't done. I'm not done. I have a long line of things that I want to do there. And so it just became a better place for the business to be, and that was the decision to me.
So they approached you as you were working with the Alexa.
So we were working with, again, they always say, I think companies aren't sold, they're bought or sold. I don't know, whatever they say. But basically, we had gotten into everything on a very business level. I mean, we were working with them, Alexa, camera integration, doing a lot of stuff with their teams. And I think through that over time, that got this together. And yeah, in the end, it was them. They came to us.
Okay. So the idea was that Amazon quite literally needed a camera system to prevent people from stealing Amazon packages. Great, right?
It's Amazon doesn't think like that, which is nice. They really do start everything, and it's cool when you get inside. They really do start, and this is from Jeff down, this customer backwards, and these infinite truths. And so, are people going to want to have a safer home and neighborhood in 50 or 100 years? Yes. And so it's they look at these bigger truths around things. It's not so tactical as this. I mean, obviously if they have a huge problem and they can plug something in, they'll do that. But overall, when they're making these big decisions, it's really about an infinite truth of something that can make a customer's journey, life, better.
What about privacy? So my house on my block, I get to test all the cameras. So I got a Ring, I got a bunch of Nests, I got some other weird stuff in the backyard, so don't go there. I'm probably the most surveilled house on the block, and I would argue that's only increasing in numbers. Should I feel as a private person walking down the street that I'm being watched at all times? And how do you avoid pinning me to some kind of thing that happens on the street just because I'm nearby?
It's certainly outdoor cameras and cameras in general. It is a growing category, and the reason it's growing is because it is giving people safer and better neighborhoods, and it is having a positive influence. And so, from our side with what we've done with it, we have seen positive impacts in the neighborhoods that we've been in. Initially, we did a study with the LAPD when we about 4 years ago, we started working on it. But we launched in an area, and we were able to reduce crime by 55%. And so I think why the category is growing and why people are happy is because, I mean, these camera systems that are owned and operated and the information is sitting with each individual homeowner are making themselves and their neighborhood safer.
And to be clear, it actively reduced crime, or did it allow them to catch the people who did the crime?
So it's both.
Okay.
It's both a deterrent as well as, a Ring system. What it does more than sort of just a camera is it brings presence back to the neighborhood. And what we found is that a long time ago, there was kind of neighborhoods were filled with people. They had, we now have sort of both spouses working. We have all these things that have happened, these trends. And those trends have led to empty neighborhoods. And if you look, most of the crime in neighborhoods happens between 11:30 and 3:30, which is kind of the most empty time of the neighborhood. Ring systems are able to bring back that presence. So being at the front door, someone comes up, your alert goes off, whether it's motion detection or someone hits the doorbell button, and you say, hey, how can I help you? That in itself is a massive deterrent to crime. And the more presence you can put in a neighborhood, we've found, proven, et cetera, that it actually can reduce it.
And then just connect that to Alexa, and then Alexa will just answer the door for you.
And Alexa actually, Alexa will be a really cool part of the system because obviously, it's indoors with that. Alexa has all sorts of auto responses and intelligence, and so it is interesting what we'll be able to do with that over time. I think we're 5.5 months or 6 months into the acquisition, so obviously a lot of that stuff takes time. But I do think there'll be a lot of great integrations we'll be able to do, both with third parties as well as with the current Amazon hardware.
What is next in this space? I mean, iterating on the idea of a home camera is fine, but what else what are you guys expecting to do?
So we focus with Ring, again, it all comes from the mission, reducing crime in neighborhoods, so we focus on, the things we're focusing on right now are around the front door with the doorbells, around the home with cameras that both have lights and ones that don't. We're focusing on outdoor lighting itself, so smart outdoor lighting, and then the alarm system inside. So those are the kind of our focus areas. Everything else, it's either something else that's happening at Amazon or even just third parties are doing it. But we're not a hardware company. Ring has never been a hardware company. It's always been a company that's been focusing on a problem and then using different vehicles to fix it. And one of those is, the Neighbors app, which is actually in our app, or it's a separate app also, which is like sort of a crime app, been massively successful, and we've had people arrested off of that app, and it works where people are posting videos, posting what's happening in their neighborhood, bringing back that knowledge, and so that to us that's a product, even though it doesn't sort of fit in a box and get sold.
I mean, the Neighbors app, I look at that every once in a while, and I see that like somebody there was a fire down the street, or somebody ding-dong ditched or whatever. Does that increase suspicion in a neighborhood?
I don't think so. I think what's great about video overall is video tells the story, better than words do. Words can be misconstrued, they can be told wrong, they can be read wrong. When you read an email, you read it in a tone. It might not be the tone that it was written in. Video tells you what happened. I mean, the video from the front door of someone doing something it gives you a truth. And for us, what it's been able to do is we call it always home. It brings the neighborhood back together in a way where they're all sort of able to talk regardless of where they are. So if you're at work and you see something happen, a package stolen, someone coming up who seems strange, you now know this is happening in your neighborhood. You can watch your Ring, and it sort of gives you just sort of knowledge of what's happening in the neighborhood. And we believe that knowledge is the best way. Knowledge and sort of presence are the best ways to sort of make neighborhoods safer places.
Can you think of a time when Ring really saved the day for somebody? Like if there was a big... we've had like thousands of examples of it, and you can go on our YouTube and stuff, and you'll see like these just kind of crazy stories. The one that touches me the most is a family that was in their home, and the way Ring's motion detection works is actually it has camera motion, but it also has a heat sensor, so these PIRs, and they basically look for heat passing by, which is human body. This family had a fire started outside of their house, and the dangerous thing about fires outside the home is that they'll actually burn around the home, heat the home up, and then by the time they come in and your fire alarm goes off, you're basically dead because you're like
it went off way too late because the smoke was outside. So the ring was going off. It was like 3 a.m. and the person gets a motion alert and they answer it, thinking who's there, and literally just sees like this ball of fire, grabs their kid, grabs the wife, leaves, and lived. Mm-hmm. So that was like, to me, that was like the one that, and we actually met the family, and we actually got the ring. We kind of have it up in our office as like a trophy piece. It's all burned up, and
wow.
It's kind of the hero ring. So maybe a little off our mission of reducing crime in neighborhoods, but certainly one that I will never forget.
If I'm building a hardware startup, and you said this isn't really a hardware startup, but if I'm building one right now, what would I do?
I think the problem has been in hardware, and we've seen, we've definitely seen some carnage in the hardware space. And I think the problem with hardware is that you had technology-minded people building cool things, and there was no reason for a customer to buy them. Mm-hmm. Customers do not have the disposable income overall at scale to buy cool things. And so you go on Kickstarter and you'd have this false sort of like this, you do a test hole basically and say like, oh, is this gonna work? You go on Kickstarter, you sell $200,000 of this XYZ hardware product, and you're like, I'm gonna, if I map this out, I'll sell $1 billion of this. And what you really did is you hit like this small group of gadget seekers, but in the end, like you're not supplying something that truly talks to someone and does something better for them. And I think that's where calling yourself a hardware startup or a software startup, if you just have to build something that makes people's lives better and that they can understand that. And I think Ring was able to bridge that gap to say like, this is, the doorbell has HD and all this stuff, but it's not about that. It's about what it does for you.
You guys did Doorbot, so you did Doorbot yourself. What implicit need did you see there? And this was even before 5 years ago. IoT was still pretty much in its infancy. What did you see there?
So I was working in my garage, and I couldn't hear the front door, and so that was the first, literally. And Drop Cam had just kind of come out recently. This was 2011, mm-hmm. And it was like, why wouldn't my front door come up on my phone? And so I looked. I actually thought someone would have built this, and I went on Amazon, and nothing was there. And so I just kind of soldered some crap up and made this thing on my front door. And my wife came home and asked, what is that thing on our front door? And I showed her, and she's like, that is the greatest thing ever. That makes me feel so much safer at home. And that was like the aha. Like that was truly the wow. Like this is not it's not a doorbell. It's not about my being lazy from the garage and not being able to hear what's going on. This is like the front door is this area that everyone forgot, and it's the most important area of the home. And that was really, and that brought this mission and all this kind of stuff.
What encouraged you to build that weird hardware instead of just putting a bell in the garage?
So I was very lucky in that the garage was just too far. Not a big property. This was but it was literally a few feet too far. Had some interference that those wireless doorbells wouldn't reach to the garage.
Okay, so you just...
And so I tried. I literally, that was the first try, and then I couldn't do that. And I just, I needed, I was working in the garage every day. Mm-hmm. I needed to hear the front door.
Because this kind of thing is always fun to hear, because it's that stroke of genius.
And then my house didn't have a wired doorbell. It was battery. Mm-hmm. And so that was why we did the battery, because I needed it to work for my house. And it turns out that was also a big part of the product, sort of spreading as fast as it did. And so, but again, that's the truth of business, though. It's like luck. I worked hard, I focused, I did everything right in terms of that side. But the amount of luck that happened along the way, getting on Shark Tank, having the right investors come when they did, having a house where if the freaking doorbell had reached to the garage, I'd probably be, I'd be here trying to pitch some other hardware thing in the roundup group here. I don't know. I don't know what I'd be doing.
So there you have it. Luck, luck, and luck. No MBAs, nothing else.
You need to, it is. Luck is, especially at this scale, to build a business to the size that we have so far and to have that success, I think luck is a huge part of it. Timing, it's just, and you can't, timing is not in your control. you don't know what's going to happen next year and the year after. And all these things kind of went our way. Luck.
All right. Beautiful. Jamie, thank you for this. It was fascinating.
Thanks.